Hi, this is Chris Sensei. I'm just going to check that this is all working on YouTube. Blah, 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 blah. Okay. Here we go. It is. Okay, right. So I'm going to try and make a whole bunch of sense in 2 minutes against the clock. Last episode, we covered effectively thermodynamics and systems and Ilya Prigoghine's law of dissipative structures. 2 minutes, obviously, because, there's a lot going on in the world, and, actually making sense of it is just another thing we've got to fit into our day, right? Coffees and Snapchat, whatever it might be. So I get it. So 2 minutes of sense starting now. Okay, I'm against the clock now. All right, countdown. Great. So let's get into it. Let's do this. Right. So systems are a bit like going around a needle of a record player, going around a record. For millennials in the audience, basically used to put a little plastic insert in the middle. Goes round. There's a little dog whistling here. This is Amen Brother. This isn't a religious quote. It's about hip hop. It's the Amen beat. It's basically on the B side of this Colour Him Father by the Winstons in the 60s. So basically I go round and round and round. I've blown half my time. And then what happens is, as I'm a system, I get to the middle and then a wider system is created. Yeah. But this doesn't actually happen because there's like a blip. There's something like a scratch. And in fact, a record, it doesn't go into the middle. It stops. It goes round and round and round and round. So the system can't evolve. And this builds tension. Eventually, second law of thermodynamics, law of dissipative structures kicks in, starts going a bit weird, and it collapses. But eventually it forms a new chain, but it still sort of connects to the old system. So there's some breaking, but there's also some retention. So what we've got is the forces at work. If we look at this, maybe from a Cartesian point of view, in other words, in 2 dimensions, like a crossword puzzle or a graph, we can see the forces are a bit different. Now, when we get changes, what happens is those forces start reversing, but the old forces are carrying on, and that's basically what's happening in the world today. And essentially, this is similar to a technique of cell division called autopoiesis. And I'm going to run over now, so hell, I'm going to give myself another minute because there's a lot of material. So what happens is we've got things that are breaking apart because we've got forces pulling in opposite directions, and you get the systems also, when it wants to keep where it is, it wants to keep going round the clip at the end of the record, but it needs to actually break out of that. It needs to go down the hole in the middle and form a new chain, a new link in the chain, form a new system. So if I can just shut that up. Right, so this is a bit weird, but you may not relate to it, but that doesn't mean you should dismiss it. So there's a lot of people, like there's my new friend, Dr. Sid here, talking about how these things work at the bigger picture level, and more things around this, what's this, interworlds of uncertainty WordPress. And because this stuff seems a bit like woo, some people think, oh, well, that's not for me. Don't judge a book by its cover, all right? So just on to the next one, we can see that if we look at how a social network or anything builds, it basically builds like this kind of outer ring. And you can see essentially you've got the core on the top right, which is like the record. It like goes down the hole and it creates another record that's bigger than the first record, but it keeps links between. It goes pop, pop, pop. We can look at Dr. Niels Flaging. We've got the Beta Codex, which is his theory of organizational structure design. Looks kind of similar, doesn't it? The organization is like a cell structure. We've got some stuff that's about that's some kind of stuff on the far right that's from some type of mystical, the idea of chains of existence. So that's something I'm fairly new to, but presumably it's like layers of hell and all in Dante and all that sort of stuff. If we go down, we've got Frederick Laloux's Reinventing Organizations, similar type of thing. We've got brain and what that does and dividing all the activity in the brain. It's a network, similar sort of thing. Visualizing neural networks. There's a colored picture here. Similar sort of thing. The evolution of abstraction layers in computing, or even a cloud computing platform, whatever it might be. Similar sort of thing. So there's something happening here that isn't about being a social media star. It's not about being a reinventing organizations guru. It's not about being a kind of medieval mystic. It's not about being another guru on reinventing organizations and the history of organizational evolution. It's not about studying brains. It's not about being loads of AI geeks studying neural networks. It's not about how we evolve things in IT. It's about all of these things, yeah? So they're related. And really what we're talking about is two principles. We're talking about scale-free networks and binary trees. Systems evolve according to a number of universal laws that mean we end up forming things that have characteristics related to scale-free networks and binary trees. And if you get into those, you'll be able to see them in your everyday life all over the place. They're just around. So some people like donuts and toroids, yeah, but I'm not a donut and toroid person. I'm a scale-free network and binary tree. I'm sure they're the same thing. I haven't quite done the maths on that yet. So what we've got is really the fact that as things change, we have to reorient our compass, because like the magnetic pole of what's driving the bigger system, the record within the record, has changed, and therefore our compasses are now pointing a different direction. But we've got the memory of the compass that was pointing in the previous direction, and that is like a strain or a tension or a stress it out, as David Dibble said. And what that does is that manifests in all the bizarre crap that's going on at the moment. And it's natural, yeah? And it happens all the time, not just when we're going through big change, because everything in the universe is really aligned to these basic principles. So what we basically need to do is we need to just have another compass. Now, the problem with that is that new things are a bit weird and we may not like them. We have an aversion. As Frank Zappa said, as well as, if you want to get laid, go to college. If you want an education, go to the library. Another thing he said, but I really like, is jazz not funny. It's just jazz is not dead. It just smells funny. So these things might not be tasteful or familiar, or they may seem a bit weird, but these are based around universal concepts that have been understood for millennia about natures of the universe that are playing out before our eyes. And again, this is a tree of, what's this, a tree of life or something like that image. It's very much like the record turning around, go down the bottom, and you end up, you're still kind of connected, but into a bigger order system. Again, it's binary trees, scale-free networks. So if you want to, if that was at all interesting, then please get in touch at growingtheedge.net. And we have live shows on the topic of transformation, live streams on YouTube every Thursday at 5:30 London time. So there we go. A bit longer than 2 minutes, but we had a lot to cover. Bye now.